So, there are two kinds of people in this world. Those who believe education is the key to success, and those who believe you should skip school and start working as soon as possible. But, what happens when a young boy's dream of going to school collides head-on with colonialism, land theft, and a revolution brewing in the forests? Well, let's just say this story is not your average study hard, and you'll make it fairy tale. This is a story where textbooks meet bullets, and love meets tragedy, and where the promise of a better future is constantly snatched away by the ghosts of the past. Our tale begins in a small Gikuyu village in Kenya during the 1950s, a time when the country was simmering under colonial rule and the winds of rebellion were starting to blow. Enter our hopeful young dreamer, Njoroge. He's the youngest son in a hardworking family, and when his mother Nyokabi offers him a chance to go to school, he jumps at it with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for free Wi-Fi. There's only one catch. The family can barely afford it. But who cares about money when you're chasing knowledge, right? Meanwhile, his half-brother Kamau, just a little older but already considered a grown-up, is apprenticed to a carpenter. Kamau's life is about sawdust and hammers, while Njoroge's is about books and blackboards. Both brothers are filled with dreams of a brighter future, but they're walking very different paths to get there. Their father, Ngotho, works for a British settler named Mr. Howlands, on land that once belonged to his family. Imagine working your whole life on your stolen property. Yeah, Ngotho's pride has taken a few punches, but when he hears his son will be the first in the family to go to school, he's overjoyed. Maybe, just maybe, education will bring the family some dignity back.
Bro!
At school, Njoroge struggles at first, but with the help of his childhood friend Mwihaki, who also happens to be the daughter of Jacobo, the wealthy Gikuyu landlord, he slowly finds his footing. Mwihaki is smart, supportive, and possibly the spark of something more than friendship. Together, they learn to read, speak English, and even study the Bible. Njoroge, ever the optimist, sees a parallel between the Gikuyu's suffering and the plight of the Israelites. If God delivered them, why not his people too? But not everyone shares Njoroge's hopeful view. His brother Boro, a war veteran who's still haunted by the death of another brother in World War II, is just furious at the injustices all around them, and, honestly, at their father for working for the man who stole their land. Ngotho tries to calm his family with stories of the past, but, resentment just simmers beneath the surface. Soon, word spreads of a strike, a bold stand by African workers demanding their rights. Ngotho, torn between his fear of losing his job and his growing anger, finally decides to join. At the rally, Jacobo, the same landlord who owns their land, urges everyone to go back to work. That's the last straw for Ngotho. In a moment of rage, he lunges at Jacobo, sparking a riot. It's all over almost as soon as it begins. Ngotho is fired and evicted, and the family loses their home. Luckily, Kamau's boss, Nganga, takes them in. Time passes, 2.5 years to be exact. Kenya is on edge. The revolutionary leader Jomo Kenyatta is arrested, the Mau Mau movement grows stronger, and violence becomes a daily reality. The dream of freedom is closer than ever, but, well, the price is getting higher. The political tension seeps into every part of life. Kori and Boro, Njoroge's older brothers, clash with the police. Fear grips the village. People are terrified not only of the colonial government, but also of the Mau Mau, who execute suspected traitors without hesitation. Mr. Howlands and Jacobo, still bitter about Ngotho's defiance, plot revenge. They have Kori and Njeri, Ngotho's first wife, arrested and plan to do the same to Ngotho. But despite everything, Mr. Howlands hesitates. He remembers how deeply Ngotho once loved the land.
To do with this decision.
Njoroge's school faces threats from the Mau Mau, but Kamau advises him to keep attending. Education, after all, is still his only hope.
Damn.
Ngũgĩ eventually returns from boarding school, and their friendship rekindles. She invites him over, and Jacobo, surprisingly, is polite. They make a promise to be together after she graduates. Hope, once again, peeks through the darkness. But reality hits back hard. On a church retreat, Njoroge witnesses colonial brutality firsthand when police kill their group leader for daring to think independently. Meanwhile, Boro quietly plots Jacobo's murder. Njoroge advances to high school, where he flourishes intellectually. He even befriends Stephen Howlands, Mr. Howland's son. The two realize that they're not so different. Both were shaped by a system that taught them to fear and resent each other. At 19, Njoroge's dreams are, well, brutally interrupted. He's dragged out of school and tortured by the police, accused of being involved in Jacobo's murder. He refuses to confess, even when they push him way beyond the brink. Then comes the most devastating blow. They tell him Ngũgĩ has already confessed, and they've castrated him. Njoroge passed out, and when he awoke, he was no longer a boy. The world had changed, and so had he.
You what?
The confession is a lie. Ngũgĩ confessed to protect Kamau, but, the real killer is Boro, who believed killing Jacobo was the only way to avenge his fallen brother. Mr. Howlands learns the truth, but lets the torture continue anyway. He can't bring himself to execute Ngũgĩ, but the damage is done. Ngũgĩ dies from his injuries, and Boro retaliates by murdering Mr. Howlands.
Oh, snap.
With his father gone and the family shattered, Njoroge's dream of education just evaporates. He's forced to abandon school and work in a dress shop. Ngũgĩ is the only light left in his life. They confess their love, but both know they cannot be together. Their responsibilities to their broken families come first. In despair, Njoroge attempts suicide, but his mother Nyokabi stops him. He survives, but the boy who once dreamed of changing the world through books is gone.
You live to fight another day.
The powerful story I've just told is from Weep Not, Child by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, a heartbreaking yet deeply human novel about hope, colonialism, resistance, and the cost of dreams. At its heart, Weep Not, Child is a coming-of-age story, but not the kind you'd expect. It's not about personal success or triumph. It's about the crushing weight of history and how it shapes individual lives. Njoroge's journey mirrors Kenya's own, full of hope and ambition, yet scarred by betrayal, injustice, and sacrifice. One of the most striking aspects of the novel is its portrayal of education. Njoroge believes that schooling can liberate his people, and in many ways, it can. But Ngugi shows us that knowledge alone isn't enough when power is violently enforced. It's a sobering reminder that systemic injustice can crush even the purest dreams. Another powerful theme is generational conflict. Ngũgĩ clings to the old ways, believing patience and loyalty will preserve his family. Boro, hardened by war, believes violence is the only path to freedom. And Njoroge, caught in between, believes in hope, only to learn how fragile hope can be. The relationships in the book, especially between Njoroge and Ngũgĩ, are beautifully tragic. They represent the future Kenya wants but cannot yet have. Their love is genuine, but it's constantly sabotaged by historical forces beyond their control. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, one of Africa's greatest writers, was born in 1938 in Kenya. Weep Not, Child, published in 1964, was his first novel, and the first English-language novel published by an East African writer. Through his work, Ngugi has consistently explored themes of colonialism, resistance, culture, and identity. Over the decades, he's become not just a novelist, but a revolutionary voice for decolonization and African self-determination. Weep Not, Child isn't an easy read, not because it's hard to understand, but because it's painfully real. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, justice, and the cost of liberation. And yet, It's also a story of resilience, of a boy who dared to dream even when the world tried to break him. If you've ever wondered how colonialism shaped lives far beyond politics and borders, this book is essential reading. It's a story of hope and heartbreak, and a reminder that even in the darkest times, the human spirit endures. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.